Hello, Robin. Welcome to the Hidden Wire podcast. Great to have you here today.
It is wonderful to be here, Lee. Thank you for having me on your show.
Do you prefer Robin, Dr. Hills, Dr. Robin Hills?
I'm rather embarrassed about this, Lee, because I've only just received my honorary doctorate. Now, when most people study to become a doctor, they've got 4 years or more to get used to the idea that that's what they're working towards. But when I was awarded an honorary doctorate, it came completely out of the blue. I was nominated by an Indian company and awarded the doctorate through a Mexican university. And I'm very, very humbled to have been given the honorary doctorate. But I've still got to get used to this idea of being called doctor. And I can only really use the title in professional circles. And I do then stress that it is an honorary doctorate rather than a PhD or an MD. Because I've been awarded it for my lifetime's work in the field of emotional intelligence.
Yeah. That's, well, it's a great achievement, mate.
Well, thank you. But like I say, I'm still trying to get used to it.
Getting used to
it. And trying to wear the badge with pride.
You say you're a business psychologist.
Yes, I'm an emotional intelligence coach, trainer, and facilitator. But a lot of that is based around business psychology, and I'm a member of the Association for Business Psychology here in the United Kingdom and the British Psychological Society. I would have said to you 6 months ago, I don't have a piece of paper with the word psychologist on it, but that's all changed with the honorary doctorate. I'm now a doctor of advanced psychological studies. So yes, I'm a business psychologist.
Excellent. What does it mean, business psychologist? Does that mean you work with businesses and people in business?
It's both. Yes, I work to bring about psychological change in people. I work to improve their performance, the quality of the relationships, the decisions that they make within the workplace, and look at things like personality traits, behavioral traits, and look at emotional intelligence traits to see what it is that makes people good at what they do. And let's see what we can do to improve upon that. Yes. Whereas most business coaches and trainers will go into organizations and find out what's wrong in order to try and fix it, I'm more inclined to go in and find out what's going right and see if we can get more of that. Because if we focus on if we focus on people's strengths, if we focus on what they are really, really good at, what makes them special, what makes them unique, and really concentrate on making that better, making them excel at it, then strangely enough, all the kind of weaknesses and limitations fall away.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I suppose
it is a different angle, like you say.
Yeah, you think about your personal life and schooling as well, always focusing on where your weaknesses were rather than where your strengths were. And I think it's probably better to focus on your strengths because maybe your weaknesses will always be weaknesses. And with your strengths, you could excel in other areas more greatly.
Yes, yeah. For example, I'll go into organizations and people are not particularly technically minded, but they're very good at building up relationships with teams. They're very good at empathizing. If anybody's got a problem, they then become the person to go to. They're the shoulder to cry on. They have got very, very good listening skills. And when I point this out to them, they kind of look at me strangely and say, well, surely everybody does that. Well, no, everybody doesn't do that. And what I've got to do is to encourage people with these skills to recognize that they are something really special and get them to work hard on it.
Yeah, that's important. What you're in the field of emotional intelligence, and I know I just had another guest on the podcast that you recognize or know. In regards to emotional intelligence, what is your strength in that particular field?
Well, the work that I do, and indeed where I got my doctorate from, is by delivering emotional intelligence online. And it's
Yeah, okay.
something I've been working at for the last 8 to 10 years. And it's delivering emotional intelligence through online learning. So people will come along and they will take one of my courses. And the courses are video based, but you can't develop emotional intelligence just by watching a few videos. You can get a better understanding of emotional intelligence, but you've got to go away and practice it. So there are practical activities and quizzes integrated within the course that will encourage people to go back into the workplace, try out new things, see what works, see what doesn't work, make mistakes and learn from mistakes in order that people can then say, right, well, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? Let's see if I can do it better next time.
Yeah. The when you say like delivering online, is that like online skills directly with you, or is it like a course or a program that you run?
It it's an interesting question, Lee, and a lot of people had to come to terms with different ways of delivering training online during the pandemic.
Hmm.
And a lot of people thought, well, what I need to do is to transfer my skills into delivering face-to-face training through media such as what we're using at the moment, Zoom and Teams and Cisco WebEx and various other platforms where people
Yeah.
can look at each other while they're training. No, I don't do that. I didn't do that prior to the pandemic, and I don't do it now post-pandemic. What I was doing is creating very, very short videos of between 3 to 5 minutes on average, which deliver a nugget of learning around an aspect of emotional intelligence. And
Okay.
these are built up through little movie clips and animated PowerPoint and GIFs, just to illustrate certain aspects of psychology and emotional intelligence so that people say, yeah, I recognize that, or yeah, I've learned something from that.
So is that through the website there? ei4change.com?
Yes, that's right. EI for change, emotional intelligence for change. And we work at the personal level, the team level, and the organizational level to bring about effective change.
Yeah, great. So that's EI for change, number 4 change.com. I'll stick the link in the show notes. The so when you say snippets of emotional intelligence, like I feel like this topic of emotional intelligence may be difficult for a lot of people to grasp. Would that be fair?
Yes, it is very fairly.
So if it's a hard thing to understand, how do then we deliver that information without, having the discussions like I'm having with you, or with Josh Friedman recently, where I can learn a lot about emotional intelligence by having that conversation. How do you tailor it so you can really give that learning and really help people enhance their emotional intelligence?
Well, I've got to defer back to Joshua Friedman, who I've known for well over a decade, and
Yeah.
I've presented at a number of his conferences in South Africa, India, and the Middle East. And I've got to know him well over the years.
Yeah.
He gave me a definition of emotional intelligence which works. And if I can refer back to what Josh gave me as his definition of emotional intelligence, and I can provide that for your listeners. If that is the basis of our understanding of emotional intelligence, then it becomes a lot easier to work with. And emotional intelligence is the way in which you work with your feelings, how you combine your thinking with your feelings in order to make good, authentic decisions and to build up quality relationships with the intent of taking action.
Okay. Can you say that again? Just
Yeah, sure.
so
It's being smart with your feelings. It's the
yeah.
way in which you combine
Mm.
your thinking with your feelings in order to make authentic decisions
Okay.
and build up quality relationships with the intent of doing something with it, with the intent of action. So if we focus in on the components of combining thinking with feelings, it's understanding emotions and not fearing emotions. A lot of people have a very, very simplistic view of emotions. There are intense emotions, anger, fear, happiness.
That's the ones that come to mind, yeah.
Yeah, these are the ones that people normally think of, but it depends upon what academic paper you read. There's anything between 3,000 and 27,000 different emotions.
Yes.
So you're sitting there experiencing an emotion at the moment. I'm sitting here experiencing an emotion at the moment, or a blend of emotions at the moment. And I'm not in a position, even with my knowledge and experience, to be able to tease them out and say, oh, it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of the other. All I can do at the moment is say, right, well, I'm feeling a degree of anxiety and a degree of nervousness because I'm on a podcast interview with Lee, and I hope it goes well, which is great. That might not feel like a pleasant set of emotions to be feeling, but I need those sort of emotions to put me physiologically and psychologically in the right place to have a good quality conversation with you.
Yeah.
And then I'm actually feeling a lot more pleasant than when I first started the podcast interview, because we've developed a degree of rapport here, Lee, and I've got an understanding of how to interact with you. And by the same token, you've got an understanding of how to interact with me.
When you're saying the thinking and the feeling, what is the relationship there with the emotion?
Well, the emotion is our reaction to our environment. So it's the situation that we find ourselves in, and our brain is operating in a way that is putting our body physiologically into the right place in order to deal with that situation. And psychologically, it's preparing us either to fight or flight, or some kind of combination of action, but to take appropriate action. And that emotion happens relatively quickly, in fact, so quickly that the thinking will kick in about 50 times later, or about 50, well, not 50. It happens so quickly that the thinking follows along a lot more slowly. And so we tend to react to the emotion rather than actually cognitively saying, am I choosing the right reaction to the emotion that I am feeling at the moment? Now, all of that sounds very, very slow. And of course, it's not as slow as that, but we can tune ourselves.
No, it goes very quickly, and that's often the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, that is often the problem. So it's actually helping people to take stock, to stop metaphorically, and to choose the right reaction, and to think, is this the most appropriate reaction in this set of circumstances? So again, to strip it down to very, very simplistic, basic, a very, very simplistic, basic level, it's helping people to understand their hot buttons, their emotional triggers. What is it that makes them angry? What is it that offends them? What is it that they don't like? What is it that they wish people would stop doing? And if we can help them to identify that, then when it starts to occur, they can recognize within themselves, I'm feeling an intensity of emotion. It's quite an unpleasant emotion. I need to react in a more appropriate way, and I've got choices. So let me choose what is going to be most beneficial to me in order that I can make the best quality decision here.
Yeah.
And to build up the relationships that I am engaging when I'm engaging with other people.
Helping people see or feel their emotions then is part of your process, I would assume. How do people become good at that?
Practice. And
Like anything.
look, am I emotionally intelligent? It's an interesting question, because if I answer yes, it's rather self-centered and suggests that there's no
Well,
room
maybe.
for improvement. But if I answer no, what on earth am I doing in the field of emotional intelligence? What I've got to do is to recognize that there are going to be certain situations that I go into that I feel comfortable, I feel I've got the right skill sets, the right experience, the right knowledge. I can draw on my memories, I can draw on my values, I can engage with people, and I can make good decisions. And then I've got to recognize that there are going to be certain times when I go into a certain situation and get it all wrong. And I'm human like you are. So I'm not going to get it right all the time. But if I get it right more times than I get it wrong, then I'm being more emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, well, that's right. And that's where you could say, well, I'm more emotionally intelligent because day to day, I am better at dealing with the emotions. And therefore, if you're better at dealing with emotions, your actions are better, your decisions are better, your life will be better, right? Rather than
Yes,
letting your
and you're
emotions run your life or letting your emotions. Yeah, I mean, I do recognize this in some people now, and I would say that I'm emotionally intelligent. And whilst, like you, I'm not in the even practice of it. I think I have a high level just from my learning in this field, from
yes,
interviewing
yes,
people like you, and that has helped me develop this ability to better manage my emotions. But beside that, I also do meditation and journaling and things there that I think have developed this level of self-awareness that brings pause to moments where I do feel emotions that could derail me pretty quickly.
and these are exactly the principles that I am teaching when I'm teaching emotional intelligence online. How do you recognize emotions and emotional states? Journaling, it's a brilliant tool.
Mm.
Meditation, it's a brilliant tool. Mindfulness, it's a brilliant concept. Put it into practice. How do you build up levels of self-awareness in people? And this is where, again, the psychology comes into it, because I've got a kit bag worth of scientifically validated and robust tools.
Yeah.
I can help people to gain better understanding of who they are, what their strengths are, what their limitations, excuse me, what their limitations are to a certain extent, but really what it is that drives them forward and what it is that they can work on to
Mm.
improve their performance, to do everything that you've suggested around building up self-awareness, which helps to reduce stress and improve overall well-being.
So when we talk, let's go in there because I'm just looking at a concept that I've created some time ago, the Ultimate Life Map, and I look at this awareness, and we just talked about mindfulness and meditation and journaling, and I don't think we need to delve into that because I think there's a lot of information out there for those, and there's a lot of science now that suggests those things are proven to help people develop self-awareness. But you sort of talked about helping people understand themselves through, what are their strengths and values and things like that. Is that sort of the other areas that you help people identify and grow their self-awareness?
Yes, and as I say, I've got a bag of tools to
A
help
bag
you
of
to do
tools?
that. Yeah, I go into a lot of corporate environments, and
Yeah.
they can get a bit sniffy about emotional intelligence. So it's all woolly, and it's all being nice, and it's all being kind, and um, it's all dealing with emotions. We don't do emotions here. We'll leave it, that sort of thing, to Barry Manilow and all that sort of nonsense.
Yeah.
So what I've got to do is to sit down with them and talk to them in hard-nosed facts and figures and data and say, right, let's do an assessment of your people and let's see where the real key strengths lie. And the tools that I've got, I use Myers-Briggs type indicators, step 1 and step 2. I use DISC. I use NEO, which is one of the big 5 psychological tools. And
Okay.
I use an emotional intelligence inventory. And these are very, very big, powerful tools, which really in black and white will tell you exactly what you're good at And it will tell you in no uncertain terms that this is what you're not good at.
Okay.
So what we do by coaching and supporting people through this process is helping them to identify what helps with their performance and what limits their performance, so that we can then put in place some programs of activities that they can do to work better with the people that they find themselves working with.
Okay. The and I'm going to ask you to share a couple of tools potentially. I'm just thinking, when you do some of those, like the Myers-Briggs or whatever it might be, to help identify what they're good at and what they're not, do you, I mean, so you sort of mentioned before that you help people work on their strengths, so what they're good at, and focus on those things. Do you also look at what they're not good at, as far as how those areas might trigger emotions that make for poorer decisions?
Yes,
Does that make
so we've
sense?
just got to accept that we can't be brilliant at everything. I'm going to share with you that my skill set is in working with people and talking to people. It's not sitting down with spreadsheets and working through reams and reams of data and numbers and doing
Yes.
intense analysis. That's just not me. Now, there are better people out there to do that than I can. So within a team, it's identifying those people that are good at those sort of skills and giving them the jobs to do that. Well, I take on the skills that, or take on the tasks and the roles that they really, really hate, which is standing up in front of a group of people and presenting, or going out and networking, or sitting down with somebody and talking about the people aspect of a problem. So, or even going out and selling. So, there's no point in taking somebody who's very, very, very good at analytical data and sits in a back room all the time in a darkened room working on a computer. They may be absolutely fantastic at that job, may be brilliant, but there's no point in making them a team leader just because they performed particularly well within their role, when that's probably the worst thing that you can do for that person, for the team, and for the organization.
Yes.
And that's a very, very clear black and white example, a very simplistic example. But it's there really just to illustrate that what we've got to do is to look at people's aspirations, people's skill sets, and try and work with it in order to make them perform better, the team to perform better, and to achieve the overall goals of the organization.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. With your toolbox, I want to delve into your toolbox. If someone's sitting there at home right now and you've got 5 minutes with them, to give them some takeaways that they can go home now over the weekend perhaps and go, okay, I'm going to work on these few areas this weekend and develop some more self-awareness. What tools would you give them?
Well, what I would do is give them really a tool, a couple of tools. One that
Yeah.
we've mentioned earlier, in terms of identifying what your hot buttons and emotional triggers are. So really work out what it is that you like, what it is that what is happening just before you start feeling yourself getting incredibly angry. A lot of people will talk about the red mist descending. Now, I've never experienced that intensity of anger, but if any of your listeners do get the red mist descending and they get incredibly angry, and it's the anger that drives the behavior rather than the cognitive functioning around, am I making the best choices of using my anger? The first step is to step back and identify what is happening prior to that intensity of emotion, so that when you see it happening or when you feel it happening, you can actually then take stock and say to yourself, this is happening, just let's be aware, and perhaps even flag it with other people. Look, if this is going to carry on, I am going to get incredibly angry and I may not be able to control myself in the best possible way. So you're putting the warning out there. And if people are carrying on behaving that way, boy, they deserve whatever they get from you. But no, in terms of helping people with their self-awareness, just understand what it is that is causing that intensity of emotion that is going to get you to react in a way that you might not like. And you may end up having to pick up all the pieces because you've not responded as well and as emotionally intelligent as you would like to.
Okay,
then,
so that could just be a process of journaling, writing your thoughts down about, hey, these are the times where I felt angry recently, and in the lead up to them, this is how I was feeling, and sort of just fleshing it out personally, just so you can, I guess, understand it better next time it comes.
yes, yeah, and I'll give you an example, a personal example. I'm actually quite deaf. I wear hearing aids, and I'm talking to you through a headset which I've adjusted and I've increased the volume for my deafness. What really, really, really annoys me, because I have to listen very intently to people in order to hear what it is that they're saying to me, and in order to try and understand exactly what they're saying to me. I find it very, very difficult when people don't listen to me. So I'm well aware of it. If somebody is not listening, I've just got to stop myself from overreacting and just try and calmly and carefully put my point across in a way that they will be able to understand, and help them to understand that what I value in people is the fact that I like people to listen to me when I'm talking to them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be a hard one, because I guess there's a lot of that out there.
Oh, there is a lot out there, and I recognize it, and I see it even more because of the fact that I'm
Well, you're
kind of
dealing with
watching
people,
out
aren't you, all
for
the
it.
time?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then another tool that is very, very useful is helping people to understand their relationship with time. Now, if we look at it very, very simply, there are two types of people. There are people who are planning, and there are people who are spontaneous. So the planning people
That's
like to
me.
plan.
Mm-hmm.
They like to know that they've got a deadline coming up in a week's time. So they'll do a little bit on day one, a little bit on day two, quite a bit on day three, put it aside day four, do a bit more day five, a bit more day six, and a bit more on day seven, and hit the deadline in very good time. Somebody with a spontaneous preference will have a look at it on day one, stick it in a cupboard and forget about it, and pick it out on day six and think, oh, cracky, I've got to do this by tomorrow. And they have a last minute surge of adrenaline to get things done. Now, that type of behavior can cause problems on both sides. The spontaneous people look at the planners and think, oh, for goodness sake, get a life. There's more important things to be doing than worrying about this deadline. It'll come around soon enough. Whereas the planners will look at the spontaneous people and think they are not taking this seriously. And why do they leave it all to the last minute when they get into an absolute panic about it? And everybody else is really running around ragged trying to hit the deadline, and they're making the situation a lot worse by just being very intense about it. Well, it's just a different preference. It's just a different way of working. And it's just a case of recognizing that there are different styles,
Yes.
particularly when you're working with time pressure, particularly when you're working with deadlines.
Yeah. What is your relationship with time?
Oh, I'm somebody who's a lot more spontaneous, but I've learned over the years to be more of a planner, so that I can actually then do everything that needs to be done, keep the planners happy, and then I can play.
I'm the opposite. I certainly love to plan, and I do know that my emotions will be running higher if I don't have good routine and plan. So you get to learn that, don't you? But it is important to then find the balance and how to be a bit more spontaneous. So yes, you can have a bit more joy in life too.
Well, this is it. I mean, I look at my wife, my dearly beloved, who I've been married to for 40 years.
Yeah.
When we are going to get a train, if I'm on my own, I'll get there 5 minutes beforehand, and I'll be standing on the platform or running onto the platform as the train is coming into the station. As far as my wife's concerned, she's got to be there at least an hour beforehand, sitting there waiting for the train for a whole hour. And there's a complete difference in the
Oh
way in
yeah.
which we operate around getting trains, getting planes, getting boats, and all that sort of thing. But I've learnt over the years, and this is where the spontaneity really helps me. I learnt over the years that, quite honestly, if that's the way she wants to be, let her be that way. So I park her on the platform. I'll go off to the coffee shop. I'll have a look at all the other shops on the station. I'm on the station. I'm there in good time, but I'm not sitting there twiddling my thumbs waiting for the train to roll into the station.
Yes.
So we just learned to tolerate each other over the years.
Well, really quite important because I mean, two ideas that you've given people to walk away with today is, looking at what triggers you and what are your hot buttons, but what sort of, type of person you are as well. So, because I think the things that often trigger us are the things that upset us in other people that
Yeah.
that they're not following, that we value. So a better understanding of that is important, and understanding that, hey, not everyone's going to be like you, and everyone's going to be different, and you've got to accept people for their differences.
Yeah, this is it. And without going into a lot more detail, there are other aspects, as you say, of this is what I value, this is how I go about my work, this is what I do. And
Hmm.
other people will do it in a different way. It's a preference. We can do it any way we like, but our preference is to do it one way. Somebody else's preference is to do it another way. And some very, very simplistic examples to illustrate this. What hand do you write with, Lee?
Am I right?
Yeah, I write with my right hand as well. So we've got an affinity towards each other around writing. But there are people who write with their left hand, and that's their preference.
Hmm.
And then there are some people who are very skilled at writing with both hands. They're ambidextrous. So
Hmm.
with all these preferences, you're either metaphorically right-handed or left-handed, but you can be either, and you can be in the middle.
What do you see? Because that just raised a question there that had me thinking last night as well. But there's a lot of in the world right now. I don't want to screw this up and say the wrong thing, but I feel that in the world right now, there's a lot of group forming, right? There's people that are for one thing very strongly, and people are totally against it on the other side. And as far as emotional intelligence goes, that shows me that people are becoming worse at showing understanding for everyone's preferences, rather than just accepting people for as they are or things as they are. We're becoming very divided in that sense. And emotional intelligence, I believe, has a big part to play in that.
Yes, absolutely. And if I take you back to your conversation with Joshua Friedman a couple of months ago, he talks about us being in an emotional recession. And I think he's absolutely right. We're getting worse at emotional intelligence rather than better.
Mm,
And I think what we can do as individuals is we can't change this group mentality, this kind of tribal mentality, because that's happening at the macro level. What we can do is to make the choices that we need to make at the individual level. So if I'm improving my emotional intelligence by making authentic decisions and building up authentic relationships, then hopefully there'll be a ripple effect out through everybody who's within my network and who I'm in contact with. That really is effectively all I can do, but
mm.
it's a major part of everything that I do. And I think, quite honestly, Lee, what I've known about you in the last half an hour or so, you're doing exactly the same. And your podcast, The Hidden Why, is doing that, and it's having that effect, and it's bringing good quality messages out into the big wide world that people need to hear.
Yeah, very true. And you're right, you have to lead that example, don't you? You have to be and it might seem silly to think, well, if I make changes in my life, how's that going to change the world? But if everyone did that, if everyone got in there and it's like self-improvement. This is the podcast. This is why I do this thing, because I'm all about self-improvement. I'm all about trying to constantly better myself, because I believe if I'm better, then I'll be a better person to everyone else in all the relationships that I have in my life, whether that's a big scale or small scale. It doesn't really matter, because each person that I touch, if I can change them just a little bit and make them better just a little bit, that'll have a ripple effect, and that'll be a greater thing for the world in general.
It will be. And if I can leave your listeners with a thought here around emotional intelligence, and to summarize everything that we've been saying, if people can combine their thinking with their feelings to make better decisions and build up relationships in such a way that when you're engaging with somebody, you leave that person feeling better about themselves, then you're doing a really, really good job.
That's good. Important message. Thank you, Robin, so much for sharing. I'm going to stick the link in the show notes for everyone to check it out. I have been flagged that there's been a little bit of an issue with my podcast, so I need to jump on that and fix that today as well. Robin, pleasure having you here.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Lee. I've thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for being such a great host.
Well, very good. Thank you. And guys, check it out at thehiddenwhy.com. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you soon.